What's up, everyone? Dan here, Crypto Capital Venture, February 11th, 2020. If you're a replay viewer, this is a live stream right now. Hit the pinned comment below for timestamps. This is going to be a quick video, though. Right now, Bitcoin making a short-term move. Short-term, I say, because we're not too sure what it's going to do just yet, but $10,282. We were just under 10,000. We fell back below 10,000. Now we are back above. Wanted to do a quick update on this move for Bitcoin. If we look at the 4-hour chart, you can see the move very clearly. We have this 4-hour break. We have a new 4-hour candle right here. And Bitcoin, at least on the short term, looking pretty good. So I want to zoom out for a second to really get context into what's going on. The story of Bitcoin, what's been happening as of recently. And I'll start here because this is like the really zoomed out charts. If you're here right now, thanks for coming by, everybody. I really appreciate you. Hit the like button on the way in. Here's Bitcoin on the zoomed out chart. I've been covering on these zoomed out charts the last cycle of Bitcoin compared to this cycle. There is so much synergy, so much harmony. And I've been very recently likening where we are now to back in 2016 in this move as we approach this upper trend line this time around. There is so much. I'm going to do a video a little later talking about this more in depth, but Bitcoin making its move, going into halvening, approaching that upper trend line. Now, if we go to the daily chart, we zoom in, we kind of get the shorter term picture of what's been going on in terms of Bitcoin. We have a lot going on, a couple patterns in particular. Number one, and let me actually remove this Fibonacci retracement, and let's look at this. We have a couple things. Number one, we have this head and shoulders, which, I've been talking about for a while now, that Bitcoin failed to break, right? This was a bearish setup. This is a busted head and shoulders. We've been talking about for a while now, Bitcoin breaking this swing high right shoulder. Now, the target for that busted head and shoulders, which is extremely bullish, is just over $11,000. That's been in our targets, and it's still in our target. Bitcoin just in a beautiful uptrend since breaking this head and shoulders. The bulls completely demolishing the bears in terms of this setup. This could have been a very ugly setup if Bitcoin broke down through that neckline. However, we're at the inverse side of that equation. Bitcoin on a longer term, or I should say midterm rise to reach that busted head and shoulders target. Now, secondly, we have a cup and handle that a lot of people have been kind of just charting lately with a breakout target of above $12,000. Again, telling the story of Bitcoin in this uptrend that it's been on. And then if we take this into further account, the 50 moving average approaching slowly that 200 moving average. I know this is something that takes patience, but if you want to see that cross happen, this is a perfect illustration, a perfect picture of what that's going to look like. So now we have context on the daily chart zoomed out of some patterns that have been in play. I want to pivot back to the weekly chart. I talked about the synergies in terms of these cycles. I want to just really quickly take a look at the RSI, this slower moving momentum oscillator. So we have Bitcoin where we are right now, right? Obviously leading into the halving, leading into the upper trend line of this pattern up here. And we take that same exact type of time frame Bitcoin leading into the upper trend line out of that bear market into the bull market, same picture. And we look at the RSI. Bitcoin trading on the weekly RSI pretty much identically to where Bitcoin is trading now on the RSI. Keep in mind the stock RSI, this quicker moving momentum oscillator, it looks overbought. On the weekly chart, it's really not as important as the RSI. RSI gives way more context and I think way more valuable data in terms of overbought, oversold than the weekly stock RSI, this quicker moving momentum oscillator. We know that the stock RSI on the weekly chart, just because overbought doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't mean anything. If it needs to come back down on the weekly, it can come back down very quickly, and even with just some short-term consolidation. We know that, right? So, and actually, we can even look at this recent, out of the bear market, this recent rise that we had for like 6-7 months, Bitcoin very quickly getting the stock RSI on the weekly into overbought. Was that a bad thing? Absolutely not. Sometimes it's the most bullish thing that we can look forward to Because look, this was just the beginning when Bitcoin was in that overbought area on that stock RSI, and it was getting ready to see some massive gains. We could be at a very similar area right now. Don't pay too much attention to the stock RSI. Pay more attention to the slower moving momentum oscillator, the RSI. So now, what I want to look at is the 4-hour chart. I don't do this often, but when we're getting a move of Bitcoin right now, we just kind of got a short-term move. I do look at Bitcoin on the 4-hour chart. I think it provides a lot of context if you're really just watching the charts, which I am during the day when I'm working. I'm sure you're kind of like the same way. So we have this progression of higher highs and higher lows. For me, this is just my approach. I love using Fibonacci retracement in terms of, seeing resistance, finding higher high resistance, finding targets for next higher high. And that's what we kind of have charted here. So we have this story of Bitcoin in terms of Fibonacci higher highs, right? So we can take this swing high back in beginning of January to swing low, and notice that swing low touching right around that 50 moving average on the 4-hour, and then boom, seeing resistance right here at the 1618 and kind of consolidating before getting another swing low back here, January 20th or so, and then we're bouncing back up. And mind you, during these processes, Bitcoin's breaking this key Fibonacci resistance. That's a huge area every time for Bitcoin on this 4-hour chart in terms of putting in new all-time, or not new all-time highs, new swing highs, higher highs, this area on each Fibonacci that we chart. So Bitcoin breaks that, sees resistance here just under the 1618, right? Actually finally consolidates at the 1618. And then we have Bitcoin on this even shorter term Fibonacci that we have charted on the 4-hour, right? We had this swing high that we just hit the other day, a couple days ago, to a swing low right down at the 50 moving average. And now I'm looking out for this higher high area, 10,500. I want to see if Bitcoin can make it. If we're kind of looking at this pattern of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin does this, it just falls into patterns, whether it's a falling wedge, a rising wedge, a falling channel, whatever, symmetrical triangle, Bitcoin puts in consistency, right? Everybody talks about Bitcoin so volatile, and yes, it is volatile, but it's consistent in terms of like these moves that Bitcoin makes. So right now, if I were to really liken the move that Bitcoin is right now as it touches this 50 moving average, this blue line, I would go back to kind of this area back here at the beginning of January into mid-January. And there's a lot of similarities. Bitcoin, a swing low at the 50 moving average, and then finally breaking through this Fibonacci retracement, this resistance area on its way to the 1618. So picture perfect, we really get a exact similar move in the next 8 hours or so, really, if not the next day or so, which is to say we broke this Fibonacci resistance, right? Just like we did back in mid-January. We're above that green rectangle of resistance, and Bitcoin sees continuation up to the 1618, right? And this is what that will look like, a very similar move for Bitcoin from where it is right now, and you will have us testing up around 10,900, close to $11,000. That $11,000, everybody, is a key area for Bitcoin. So to put this all together, if we get that picture perfect scenario, I'm zoomed out on the 4-hour, but watch how this all comes together. I did a video the other day how $10,000 is not as important as $11,000. Here's why. The June swing high that Bitcoin had to our most previous swing low that we bounced off of, right, at the end of December, here is our resistance channel. Are we on our way to this resistance at $11,000 up to $12,300 or so? This is the story. Will it continue to play out in a series of higher highs and higher lows? As we zoom in on this chart, we get this speculative idea of what might be to come even in the next 24 hours. That is what I'm looking at. I want to see if we get a similar move to what we've charted here. On the very short term, will the bulls run out of steam, and will Bitcoin, come back down actually and test this Fibonacci trade sideways? And maybe we have to be a little bit more patient for a potential move like this. That's what we have to kind of wait to see. That's what we wait to find out. I just kind of wanted to do a nice, quick live stream, give you my thoughts on this. Bitcoin moved. We fell below $10,000. We didn't want to fall below $10,000. Everybody just wants $10,000 to be broken for good. But now we've broken it again. I'm not even going to question whether or not that was the last time to buy under 10,000. Who knows? These are just my thoughts. I'm sharing it with you. I'm just trying to take a break on my Tuesday morning. If you're here in the live stream, I appreciate you coming by. Hit the subscribe button if you're not a subscriber. If you're a replay viewer, comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Let's see where we end up in 8 hours. I'll probably do a video later tonight, and we'll see how this chart plays out. Will we test 11,000? That is yet to be seen. If you're in the chats, I do see the chats going. I appreciate you all coming by. Thank you for hanging out with me. I hope you have an amazing day today. Make it an amazing day. I will see you in the next video. God bless.